Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and we've got an incredible episode lined up for you today. But first, a quick reminder to check out our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all of our amazing content. Now, let's dive into the heart of today's episode. Our guest is a remarkable individual whose journey is a testament to the power of resilience, optimism, and a relentless drive to make a difference. I'm thrilled to introduce Shawn Dobbs, Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations at the Lighthouse for the Blind, Inc. Shawn's story begins with a challenge that would shape his life and career. Born with retinopathy of prematurity, he navigated the world with limited vision until the age of 12, when he lost his sight completely. But Shawn never saw this as a setback. Instead, he viewed it as a unique opportunity to develop a sense of empathy and a strong determination to overcome societal barriers. His professional journey is equally inspiring. Shawn started his career in the fast paced environment of McDonald's, a job that taught him the value of hard work and customer service. He then pursued a graduate degree and worked as a renal social worker in Richmond, Indiana, where he honed his skills in helping others navigate life's challenges. But it was at Bosma Enterprises in Indianapolis that Shawn discovered his passion for vocational readiness. Working with individuals who are blind and have low vision, he helped them plot out their career paths and tackle hidden barriers to employment. This experience laid the groundwork for his current role at the Lighthouse, where he has been a driving force in talent acquisition and advocacy for people who are blind. Shawn's leadership journey didn't stop there. He has held various roles at the Lighthouse, from Director of Public Relations and Development to Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations. In each position, he has demonstrated a commitment to advancing opportunities for people who are blind and ensuring that the Lighthouse's culture of bold thinking and innovation is felt across all of its manufacturing facilities. But Shawn's impact extends beyond his professional achievements. He's also a stand up comedian who finds joy in bringing laughters to others. His love for outdoor cooking and sports shows that his passions are as diverse as his talents. So get ready for a conversation that's sure to inspire and enlighten. We'll talk about leadership, overcoming obstacles, and the importance of empathy and humor in making the world a better place. Please join me in welcoming Shawn Dobbs to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Hello, Shawn. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jim. Thank you. I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm fantastic, my friend. I'm fantastic. I'm excited to be here. The sun is shining, birds are chirping, sky is blue. I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for being where I am right now, and just excited to have this conversation with you. From the first time you and I connected, I really felt like we got along well, and so it'll be fun to bring this conversation to more people.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here, and myself and the Lighthouse for the Blind Inc. appreciate the opportunity, and I am looking forward to a fun and hopefully enlightening conversation.
Awesome, awesome. So, Shawn, I start every conversation I have with my guests uh, uh, asking them to tell their story, right? You've had an incredible journey from losing your vision at such a young age to becoming a leader in talent acquisition and advocacy for people who are blind. Can you share with us how your experiences have shaped your approach to your work and the mission for the Lighthouse and also your story up until getting to the Lighthouse?
Sure. So I was born 3 months premature, and I weighed less than 2 pounds.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and I have a twin sister who can see.
Okay.
So, somehow she ended up being able to see. I was, uh, had trouble breathing, was in an oxygen tent, but my retinas functionally did not fully develop. So over time, they detached. So I could see and read, print, and all of that until I was 12. But at the age of 5, my parents at the time sent me to the Indiana School for the Blind. So imagine being a 5-year old
Wow.
and life's good. You're having a great time. You're playing outside a lot and all of that. And the next thing you know, you go from where we lived in Indiana, an hour away from Indianapolis, and I go get dropped off at the school for the blind for the whole week.
Wow.
That's quite a challenge, not just for me, but that was a very difficult thing for my parents as well.
Yeah.
Um, but over time, you kind of learn to adjust to that, and they went from teaching me print to trying to get me to learn Braille, which I didn't enjoy at first, but ultimately made that transition. Um, so the School for the Blind was a really, I think, important experience for me in a couple different ways. One, I was able to excel academically with no barriers,
Sure.
and um, so that was a great thing. And then I was also able to participate in sports, so that was also huge because I was a wrestler. I had a scholarship to wrestle in college, but I turned it down.
Wow.
But I also won 3 blind national wrestling championships. But what that taught me was, because I wanted to understand how I fit into the larger scheme of things.
Mm.
And so, with all my experiences at the School for the Blind, my first job out of high school, well, in high school, was working at McDonald's,
Yeah.
which, you know, McDonald's is, great, especially when you're younger. You're like, oh, great, I can eat a lot of Big Macs, quarter pounders, fries. Um,
You
so I
can
get
burn it
this
off, right?
exactly. You can burn it off. Not anymore, but yeah, back then. So I get there and they put me to work, and the only job they would let me do was ironically make French fries,
Really?
which, yeah, which seems like the least viable of all jobs because you're dealing with vats of boiling grease.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
that was my first thought.
yeah. So I'm working McDonald's and then I burn my fingers, and then it's like impossible to read Braille, which is what I need to do for school.
No.
Um, so I did that job for, a little while, and there were just other things about it. I'm really glad for the experience because it made me feel awkward.
Okay.
And it made me feel kind of outcasted, like, hey, look, we have a blind person working over here,
Yeah.
and I always wanted to remember that experience because in the future, my whole idea has been we have to foster a sense of belonging for everybody.
Yeah.
And so having that early experience, and then you go off to college and you kind of have to deal a lot more with the actual adjustment of living with vision loss,
Yeah.
like in a real tangible way. Like, how am I going to get here? Self advocacy. How am I going to make friends because I'm different? Because if we took I'll just go for an example. So you're in uh,
Phoenix.
Phoenix, right? So
Yeah.
what's the population of Phoenix
Uh couple
approximately?
I don't even remember, my friend. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
my
but
fault.
here's my point. If we took all the people who claim to have a vision loss,
Yeah.
much less blind, legally blind, we could fit them all in the Cardinals Stadium.
Okay.
So, for context, you're just talking about a very small group of people. So, what a lot of people know is they're like, oh, what do I do when I come across a person who is blind? So, people don't know, or they have stereotypes or all these other things. And so, for me, it was really great to have and difficult to have the opportunity to kind of work through those and create a successful college career for myself. And nobody had more fun in college than I did. Um, but um, uh, yeah, that was a fantastic time.
Where'd you go to school?
So I went to a small private school in Southwest Indiana. I went to the University of Evansville, and then to enhance my experience, I joined a fraternity, and there were lots of shenanigans along the way.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Studying too, but yeah, I had more fun than should legally be allowed. and survived to tell about it. So that's great. And then I went on to grad school at Indiana University and got my master's degree in social work with a focus on organizational leadership. And when I was looking for a job, I've always been rather pragmatic and really try to figure out the best strategy forward. So when I went looking for a job, instead of focusing on like I should go to a bigger city because there could be more support, more services, more transportation. I did the reverse, and I went to a small town on the border of Indiana and Ohio called Richmond, Indiana, because I felt like there'd be less competition, and what I really wanted was just to get my first job.
Got
So
it.
and I also could drive a higher I actually drove a higher salary for myself because they didn't have enough people qualified. So, but that job was incredibly difficult, not just in terms of getting to and from work, but trying to work with people and get them to accept me and embrace the fact that I was blind, because you don't see too many blind medical social workers out there, especially in the late 1990s. And
Sure.
things were partially computerized, partially in print, which were other challenges. I made it work, but
Okay.
it was, again, it was great because I had to have these experiences where I I felt the impact of being like the only person,
Mm.
and how do I make things work and all of that. And so I then took did some other jobs and ultimately ended up at Bosma Enterprises in Indianapolis, and that opportunity really helped me in terms of developing a passion for trying to make a impact, not just on people but also on the in the world itself. And I mean, the cool thing is we can all make that impact. It doesn't have to be some huge thing, and we don't have to keep track of our impact. We just got to go out there and listen to people, care about people, and try to help people move forward. And
Yeah.
so that led me to apply for a job in Spokane, Washington at the Lighthouse for the Blind. Um, and so I interviewed and got offered the job. So 3 weeks later, I grabbed my cat and we moved across the country to Spokane, Washington, and worked as the development director of public relations and development. So government relations, meeting with local officials, networking, and fundraising.
Yeah.
And that led me to uh, them asking me if I wanted to relocate to South Carolina because we had started a manufacturing facility there. So I went down there, did the same thing, and also tried to uh, you know, help bring our culture to that location. And
Sure.
then moved to Seattle and worked there. And then I ended up back in Spokane. And in between those times, I was became the senior director of talent acquisition and now the vice president of marketing and public relations. So I'm the only person that's worked at all three of our manufacturing locations, which is
Wow.
really interesting. And they all have different locations can have their own unique qualities to them. But the great thing about it is our culture is present at all three locations. So
That's
um,
wonderful.
so our mission at the Lighthouse for the Blind Inc. is to empower people who are blind, deafblind, and blind with other disabilities by creating diverse, sustainable, and meaningful employment opportunities.
Wow.
And why that is important is 70% of people who are blind are unemployed or underemployed. That number goes to 80% for people who are deafblind and 90% for people who are blind with other disabilities. So um, we currently employ approximately 440 people, 240 of whom are blind, deafblind, and blind with other disabilities. So besides doing manufacturing in Seattle, Washington, which is where our primary headquarters is. And in Spokane, Washington, we also have our facility in Summerville, South Carolina, just outside Charleston. We also run base supply centers on military bases. So a chance for people to come in and purchase products made by people who are blind for the military. So we have base supply centers and up and down the West Coast, Washington State, California. We have one in Nevada. We close out contracts for the federal government in San Diego, Falls Church, Virginia, and Huntsville, Alabama. So we we have a wide we try to have a diverse streams of revenue
Yeah.
and do all that. And then besides that, we provide programs and services to our employees. So we teach computer and assistive technology. We have an accommodations department which helps implement and make accommodations for people so that we can eliminate barriers and allow people to maximize their performance by giving them the tools they need to be successful. We have a deaf blind program. So um, everything from deaf blind community classes to a deaf blind retreat and training people who are deaf blind on computers and assistive technology. We have a low vision clinic and store. We teach people how to travel independently through orientation and mobility. So we have a career development program, which helps people develop the skills to either have upward mobility opportunities and or lateral opportunities in our company, but also if they want to go and explore employment outside of the Lighthouse, we want to provide them with the tools to be able to do that too. So I think we're a very dynamic organization. We do a lot of different things, and it is an exciting place to work, and it is fun to watch things happen and us create quality products and offer quality services to our customers, but also provide an outstanding experience for our employees and to watch them be able to grow and thrive. It's just a really fantastic place to be, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
That's awesome. That it's I, I'm rarely speechless, Sean, and here I am speechless. It sounds like a phenomenal organization, and it sounds like it aligns very well with your values and what you're trying to accomplish, and the impact that you're trying to make on the industry and your community.
Absolutely. I mean, we one of the things we do is we always to the best that we can, we always like to be bold and think big because I think that's important. And if you're going to try to reduce a 70% unemployment rate and you're going to be involved in some of the industries that we're in, you have to be able to think big, but then also you have to be able to not only is good for the organization, but allows people to come along and grow and have opportunities. So for us, one of the key components is so we manufacture products for the federal government and also aerospace companies. And so we are in a program called the Ability One to come into play back in 1938. And at that
Wow.
time, there just wasn't a lot of opportunities for people who are blind. I mean, when we started back in 1918, we were manufacturing by day like jigsaw puzzles, mops, brooms, and selling them at night.
Yeah.
Because that was really all there was. And we were dealing with people who were coming back from the Great War, World War One, and they had experienced vision loss
Sure.
during that. And then from there, we've grown. And in 1951, we started manufacturing parts for the Boeing company, and then
Wow.
we've continued to grow in our manufacturing capabilities, and now we manufacture, like I said, products for the federal government, such as office products, so dry erase whiteboards, paper trimmers, believe it or not, binders still,
Okay.
and easels. We also manufacture hydration systems, canteens, and an entrenchment tool for the military, and other products as well. And what's important about that is 75% of the direct labor has to be performed by a person who is blind.
Wow.
And
So
so,
how
yeah.
how do you go through the training process? I mean, I'd love to talk. How do you recruit blind and low vision individuals, and then how do you train them to be machinists? How do you train them to do these kinds of things?
So um, it's really interesting. So we post jobs just like every company does,
Hmm.
and we will uh, there's the one thing in the blind community, there's such thing as obviously word of mouth. So that's a big
Sure.
thing for us. We actually also will advertise in certain places where we know people who are blind will, um, are. So there are certain organizations we will post jobs with. We'll go to specific job fairs, um, and things like that. And then sometimes we can work with other organizations to promote our uh, employment opportunities. There's lots of opportunities. So we're working to build a relationship, for example, in Seattle, um, with the Washington State School for the Blind, because that'd be a natural pipeline, right? Like you're not going to get
Absolutely.
everyone, not everybody necessarily wants to do that. But even if they don't, and let's say they wanted to go do something else, they know of us and they could come back to us later, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so being able to build those kind of pipelines is important to us. And with there being such a high rate of unemployment, people are able to find us. That being said, we have a tremendous challenge right now because we actually are desperately looking to hire more people who are blind. We have opportunities and we want to employ people. We have assembly jobs open. We have production worker jobs open. We have an HR coordinator position, talent acquisition coordinator position open. We have all types of opportunities because people who are blind are represented in every department in our organization. So our CEO, George Abbott, he's blind. I'm a VP of marketing and PR. I'm blind. We have people who are blind in human resources, accounting, everywhere. And um, how we train people in manufacturing, we'll take someone who just comes in, maybe they've lost their eyesight as an adult, which happens a lot. And we can start people off um, in a basic position and
Hmm.
look at their aptitude and what they want to do in their um, all of that, and then people will grow. We have development. Our culture is always focused on excellence. So we obviously, if we're manufacturing parts for aerospace companies or we're manufacturing parts for the federal government and the military, we have to be excellent at what we do.
Yeah.
And but that also goes back into continuous improvement and training of employees. So we cross train um, people in our manufacturing area, and then we also um, we'll work with people on what their goals are, and then we'll work to help give them the tools to be able to grow up and uh, in their profession or in their field and take on new opportunities. So someone might go from a simple manufacturing job to being a setup specialist to being a line
Sure.
leader and things like that. And then we have all kinds of tools in place, for to really focus on people's career aspirations. And then, like I said, we have programs in place that we can also capitalize outside of the Lighthouse. So we have an AJAC program in Seattle, so people are able to go and um, become an apprentice and be able to you know, go to that next step in terms of running a CNC machine and all those types of things. And so we have with technology too, that opens up opportunities for people. So we have people who can run a CNC machine who are deaf blind, and they might use a braille display to make that happen. So
Wow.
it's really a combination of training, focusing on people's goals,
Hmm.
and working with them. And then it's also about accommodations and being able to provide people with the tools that remove those barriers that allow people to go from maybe not having a job to not only having a job, but a purpose, and being able to, um, you know, impact their personal life. So maybe
Yeah.
they're able to ultimately to buy a house or to do things that, they never thought they could do. I mean, there are
Yeah.
so many stories um of what people have done. We have a gentleman who was in the military in South Carolina, and he ended up losing his vision, and he was pretty much lost. Like, his wife was worried about him because he was like really close to ending it. And
Uh,
he found us, and it's given him a whole new lease on life. And he is a leader, and he is supportive of everyone, and he makes a huge difference. And so we've given
wow.
him that purpose and opportunity. And
Wow.
so that, for me, at the end of the day, as a leader, when I see people succeed, or we as an organization have done things to help people succeed, I can sit back and smile and go to
It's
bed
awesome.
and feel great, because it isn't about me. It isn't about anyone in particular. It's about all of us helping people overcome obstacles and being able to uh, rediscover themselves, or
Yeah.
discover themselves and be able to watch them thrive. And that is what it's all about. Because if you can do that, then you can also, that goes through the whole organization.
Yeah.
If people see stuff, if you are positive, if you are able to listen and have empathy, and you are able to strive to be inclusive and create a sense of belonging, and those things aren't easy to do, um, then you've created a culture where things are possible and people have opportunity, which leads to great things, not only for individuals but for the organization. So
Yeah.
my leadership philosophy, honestly, is more, if you help people, yourself and others be better, then the organization's going to be better.
Absolutely. So, you said a couple of things in there that I want to unpack, Sean. Um, you talked about your leadership and your leadership style, right? You've held multiple roles at various organizations, various roles at the Lighthouse, in leadership positions. How has your leadership style evolved over your career? What lessons have you learned, and how does that drive your passion for empathy and that sense of belonging?
So my first role at the Lighthouse, I was director of public relations and development in Spokane. Our first fundraiser we had, that I was responsible for, uh, went off without a hitch, but we failed to. There was nothing wrong with the event. It just didn't make it. We didn't raise as much money as we had wanted to make.
Okay.
And when you move across the country and you're taking a gamble on switching professions, um, you can overthink things, and really you can rack yourself with anxiety and fear. Um, and what I learned from that experience is, failure isn't really failure. It's honestly, I mean, cognitive therapy maybe, but it's really an opportunity. So
Yeah.
if you want to reframe it and still keep it true, failure
Yeah.
is not really, it's just an opportunity. So that was the first thing I learned. And then I learned how to relax.
Okay. I
Um,
like that.
because the world moves fast. Everyone gets caught up, and generally it's not that things aren't critical and important and need maybe immediate action, but sometimes I think we kind of put things out of perspective, or perhaps even have a cognitive distortion about them, and we make them
Yeah.
bigger than they are. And
Sure.
I think it's important to level set. So one of the things I do now is every day I take some time and just think, and I also expect there to be randomness. So I it doesn't matter if I have my day planned out. That doesn't mean how it's going to go, but it also isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I try to take some time and settle myself down and, you know, meditate or think on things to help put me in the right mindset
Okay.
to be able to navigate things. And then I think, um, honestly, trusting in others. There's a people that work in your department and report to you are there for a reason, and trust them.
Yeah.
You know, if and be able to because if you do, you're going to create more opportunity for them, and they're going to feel valued. And you don't have to, as a leader, it's not necessarily your responsibility to always be the head person. You want to be also building people up at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and and that for me has kind of been my evolution. And it's great because they might have different ideas than you, and I might personally think, well, that's not the way I would do that, or that's not how that should go. But you know what, if it gets the same result and it's ethical and falls in all the checks all the boxes in terms of guidelines and policies, that's okay. There's multiple ways to do things. And so it's kind of been great because it's helped me. It's really it's less about what I do, which is still important, but it's about what am I creating with the people that I work with, and how are we helping the organization. And the other thing is really trying to take a holistic view of things. People want to be a leader and can be a leader, but I think to be a true effective leader, you have to look beyond your own department or your own
Sure.
little area and have that global view of things and learn how to how all things fit together, because it's all a system, and
Yeah.
be able to try to understand that, because that's going to make you better. It's going to help you see what you do and how it impacts things in a positive or negative way. And then it also does things that you can pass on to the people that report to you and work with you, because it's important for people to see beyond their cube or wherever they're at. And if
Yeah.
you can do that, then you're creating a stronger uh, sense of belonging, value, that people matter, and people also can see how things intersect and why they are important to what's happening.
Yeah. So that's awesome, Sean. The second thing that came up, and now I've got more questions coming to mind. Um, your background or your first role was talent acquisition with Lighthouse, director, I believe. How did you incorporate uh, empathy into that talent acquisition process and strategies, and how crucial is empathy to building the culture that the Lighthouse is trying to get in multiple locations there?
So empathy is critical. So when you see people apply and you screen people, you kind of get to know them a little bit. And yeah, and as someone who is blind, if I'm recruiting someone who is blind, I understand the barriers of maybe having to move,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm in Georgia, but I want to apply for this job and maybe end up working for the Lighthouse in California or say Washington State. Um, you have to have empathy on the challenge of the difficulty of being able to move. So it's for me, I would always create it as a especially when you get to the point where it's more a discussion. It's not just like um, transactional as it can be.
Yeah.
I want to talk with people about okay, so here's I've been there because I've moved across the country a few times. Um, so I understand the fear, I understand the anxiety, and how am I going to do all this stuff? And so being able to really talk with people about that, and actually, when I moved out of that position, and so we have Nicole Head is now our senior director of talent acquisition. When I moved over to VP of marketing and public relations,
Yeah,
we hired other people who are blind to serve as talent acquisition coordinators, and so they're able to have that empathy and
yeah,
understanding. And then when we do our onboarding, the way we help facilitate that, we're revising our entire onboarding process. And so what we want to do is immerse people in our culture immediately and over time. And because, when you start somewhere, you're overwhelmed with all the paperwork and all this other
hmm
stuff. And then you got to meet people, and then you got to figure out where you're even going. And then you have all these things going on. And so we understand you don't want to overwhelm people, but we're kind of setting up processes that help integrate people immediately into our culture. And part of that is understanding who we are and developing that sense of belonging, which then helps, there's empathy
yeah,
if there's a sense of belonging. And so we do that. And then we have other opportunities for people once they're on board. We have internal auditing teams. So that's a way for people to
interesting.
learn about other aspects of the company and help make sure that we're up to date and everything with our processes and policies and
Yeah,
all of that. And then we have, just an array of other opportunities, cross functional teams to help provide people opportunity and to get really the help people grow, but also help make the organization better because it's driven by the ideas that uh, our employees are able to come up with.
I love it. I love it. Looking ahead, what are your goals for the Lighthouse and the impact that it's having on the manufacturing industry? And to continue on that, how do you plan on continuing to advance opportunities for people who are blind?
Well, our biggest thing right now is we are working to, we always have new things in the works that I can't really go into, but we're looking to continue to grow and expand our
Stay
what
tuned, huh?
yeah, stay tuned. We uh we have, like I said, three different manufacturing locations, so we're able to move and set up manufacturing lines incredibly fast. And so we can leverage our different locations to maybe it's improving shipping costs. So we can start working things out of South Carolina, or maybe we have other things that we want to do specifically in Seattle or Spokane. So we're always trying to, obviously recovering from the pandemic is huge, and making sure we're in a position to really continue to grow. But we have plans to continue to grow our manufacturing. We have plans to continue to take advantages of other opportunities um, outside of manufacturing as well. And we we really just want to continue to create those opportunities. So it could be through a different line of business. It could
Sure.
be adding new capabilities or new contracts. Obviously will create new opportunities um, for us. And since we're involved in manufacturing for the federal government and also aerospace companies, there's always opportunities and challenges out there, and we take them head on. And we are poised for we're positioning ourselves for a very strong future. So we have goals of employing many more people who are blind than where we're currently at,
Sure.
and potentially other locations and all of this. So we're just really positioning ourselves to be strong and be able to move forward after all the supply chain disruptions and everything else that's occurred over the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Sean, if I remember correctly out of your bio, you have passions for outdoor cooking. Is that grilling?
Yeah, so I have outdoor griddle. I have two. I have a Komodo Joe and a Big Green Egg. So
Wow.
um, I uh, I enjoy cooking new things, trying new things. It's fun, and actually, it's relatively accessible. If you, I have a device that I can actually um, put in my lump charcoal and wood chunks, and I can light it, and I can wait till it gets to a certain temp. And if I was going to smoke a brisket, for example, I can put this meat probe in, but I also have this probe that will and connected to a fan that will actually can help adjust the pit temperature. So
Interesting.
I could actually start a brisket, fly to Phoenix, hang out with you, and then fly back, and I could monitor it the whole time. Um,
Well, let's not do that. Let's go a different way. You start the brisket, I'll come see you and help you eat it. How's that sound?
that sounds good. So yeah, it's fun, and then sometimes things can get like if you're cooking, you're doing a pizza and it's like 700 degrees. Um, I'll involve my wife in that a little bit because not trying to not trying to burn my hands because I need those,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I'm really good at like I do a lot of reverse searing steaks, tri-tip, ribs, pulled pork, and then
Man.
on the griddle, that's um a little more boring, but it's really good. You can do some great breakfast food on that, and there's little tricks of the trade you can do as a person who is blind or learn. So I for me, I've always tried a lot of different things in my life. So I've at one time I uh, did blogging, and I stopped doing that, but then I brewed beer at one time, and then just kind of got in a position where that wasn't um, possible anymore based on moving and where I was
Sure.
living. But I've tried that. Um, I've ran a half marathon. I always try
Wow.
to come up with new things. Stand up comedy was awesome.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
So I actually went to a pub after work one day, and I was sitting there and I was talking to this lady, and she goes, "You're funny." And I'm like, "Oh, well, thanks." She goes, "No, you should really go do stand up comedy." And I'm like, "Oh, come on." So anyway, she kept at me, and then I went with her and her husband to we did went to a comedy club, and I kind of watched what was going on, and then we went and did some improv.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that was cool, but I was terrible. But people kept at me, and so I actually have done it a couple times.
Good for
And
you.
then I moved, so I couldn't do it. But now I'm back in a position where I actually have plans to go to a comedy club again, just because times change, and I like to be relevant to, because I'm not talented to be like a national person at all, but I like to understand my community because some jokes are going to work well some places, not so
Yeah,
much other places.
sure.
And and then there's always, and for me it's always a blend of some humor regarding blindness, because some of it can be funny. Some of
Yeah.
it is making fun of sighted people because you guys are hilarious. And then some of it is just general stuff. But so I'm actually hoping to work up a new bit and do that. And I read Colin Jost's
Sure.
memoir and stuff like that. And so I've kind of tried to demystify it. And for me, I know I'm never going to be great or famous at it, but it's just something fun to do. And when you do it and you can make people laugh, it is the most exhilarating thing ever. And if you don't make people laugh, what I ask at the beginning is that you quietly just get up and I won't even know you're gone. So that's
That's funny. I like that one.
so
That's a
so
great way to start off your set, man. I like it a lot. Hey, Sean, as we wrap up here, my last question is always what haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience today?
So I've mentioned this before, but we do have a lot of job opportunities available. So if anyone out there knows, well, actually, if anyone out there is looking for an employment opportunity, but specifically also if you know anyone who is blind or deaf-blind, we have some great job opportunities, and I would love for you to go and check out org/jobs, and that is we'll give you all the info about our job opportunities, the online application, etc. And I just appreciate the time and sharing my story and sharing about the Lighthouse, and appreciate all the work that you do, Jim.
Oh, thank you very much, Sean, and I will put that URL, folks, in the show notes. So if you're able to and interested, please click through to Lighthouse's website. Sean, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you today, and thank you for the kind words. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode. What an incredible journey we've been on today with Shawn Dobbs. His story is a powerful reminder of the impact that mission-driven organizations like the Lighthouse can have on the manufacturing industry and beyond. Shawn's resilience, optimism, and dedication to advancing opportunities for people who are blind is truly inspiring. If you were moved by today's episode or learned something new, we'd love for you to share it with your friends, your colleagues, your grandma, anyone who cares about the intersection of manufacturing and company culture. Word of mouth is the best way to help us grow and continuing to bring you these amazing stories. Also, don't forget to visit our website at manufacturingculturepodcast.com for more episodes, content, articles, swag, etc. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay connected and up to date with all things manufacturing and culture. And my last ask today, folks, if you have a moment, please rate and review the show on whatever podcast platform or YouTube that you're watching this or listening to this on today. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it helps us reach more listeners like you. Every time you rate and review the show, it boosts us up the charts so more people find us. So, folks, thank you for tuning in to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I can't wait to bring you more inspiring stories from the heart of the manufacturing world. Until next time, keep making a difference, keep making things, and have a great day.